Very good morning, everyone. Welcome to StudyIQ English. Welcome to the Hindu newspaper class with me for 18th February 2026. Once again, we are getting reminded each day of how quickly time flies, and that's when we understand the value of hard work, curiosity, and dedication that we invest in ourselves, in our futures every day. So, on that positive note, let me begin by showing the QR code for my Telegram channel. And as promised, the good news is that today in the evening, I will announce everything regarding the Zoom classes. So, for those who are interested, let's have dedicated, short, and yet very powerful Zoom based interactions very soon. And today, from the Hindu newspaper New Delhi edition, I have picked up 6 articles for you. These articles start from the editorial page, that's page number 8 today, and both of them are from diverse topics. The first one is written by none other than the prolific writer, the master of words, Mr. Shashi Tharoor, a hot favorite of few of my students also in the class. And then we proceed by looking into right to free speech and expression in India. Of course, we are looking into IT rules and certain important clauses there. We shall also look out into GST issue. Has it really helped India in controlling tobacco abuse? Then we travel to a few places. Of course, we shall travel to Europe, Switzerland, because we are looking at a very important summit that's happening there. Apart from that, we are also looking at Russia Ukraine border as well as France. So let's try to make it a very interactive discussion like every day, beginning from the first article that is written by Mr. Tharoor, The New World Disorder from Rules to Might. Yes, this is international relations and India's foreign policy with a key note on strategic autonomy, multi alignment, and therefore this is GS paper 2, international relations, India versus the world community. But then, before I can start with this article, as a protocol and with utmost happiness, I want to welcome all my dear students online on board. And these are Sumedh, Iba, Prasad, Sitaram, Anup, Madhav, Kundur, AB, Rajnishwar, Satya, Kritik, and Kinomi, Sadhana, Eric, Rishabh, Ashish, and Shlok. So, and Satya. And as other students keep joining us, let's quickly begin with the first article for the day. Welcome, Santosh, and I hope others can also join in soon. Let's look into this article by Mr. Tharoor. Yes, what does Mr. Tharoor say in this article? Okay, let's look into it from a very, very foreign policy perspective. But yeah, in this article, Dr. Tharoor is saying that when we had the Second World War, when the Second World War ended, say about in mid 1940s, you know that even major powers of the Second World War, like Japan, had by 1945 surrendered completely. And from then onwards to now, every day the world is becoming a whole new different place to live in. The whole world, in fact, understood as a part of World War II that war got devastation. War meant a complete monopolizing of the world by major industrial and military powers, and therefore, all countries decided to now walk away from war. And then this gave birth to multilateral global institutions like United Nations, various agencies and organs of United Nations in order to tackle financial crisis and economic recession in poor developing countries, which we also sometimes call in economics as NICs, newly industrializing countries. In order to solve their financial problem, then the world invested in bodies like World Bank, International Monetary Fund, both being Bretton Woods institution. All in all, the sentiment of Second World War was to create peace and negotiation, not war. Yes, but now if you look at so many years that have rolled by, UN has completed its 80 years. But then if we look back in retrospect, we really feel bad that maybe all these global agencies were a short term solution. Today, none of them are able to solve the problems that we are confronting as a global community. One of the major crises of modern society has been the Cold War between previous USSR, Soviet Union, which is today Russia, and US. If you look at the global situation today, all that has happened is that rather than the world becoming a duopolistic place, one USSR and the other US, we have created a kind of quadrilateral which has four power centers, and everything is about those four power centers. The other states in between, the other countries in between, like India, they are all becoming swing states. They don't even know when to switch which side, when to swing which side. So today you can have China, you can have US, of course. We do talk about the power of Russia's military, defense force, and then there is European Union. So the power is mostly getting past the parcel between all these places. Looking at this situation with utmost disgust, Mr. Tharoor is saying that after Second World War, United Nations in 1945 October was created to create a multilateral rule-based order. What was the intention of creating UN? Its various agencies, say like UNICEF, say like ECOSOC, or UNESCO, or the International Criminal Court, or not International Criminal Court, the ICJ. What was the need for creating all these agencies? International Court of Justice, you can call it. The need was very clear to make sure nations are living in peace, to make sure poor countries receive support from the developed ones, peaceful resolution of conflicts. Conflicts happen. Nobody can deny that conflicts do not happen. Conflicts happen. But the idea behind UN and its various agencies is to create a peaceful resolution of these conflicts. And then you have within United Nations other dedicated panels like UNFCCC. The idea is also to take care of climate change and economic injustice, to create more green justice in the world, to create collective security, international law. Now, have you ever wondered why a country that was a roaring superpower during Second World War, Japan, suddenly decided to demilitarize? Suddenly, after Hiroshima, Nagasaki, it came and surrendered Taiwan. It said, I don't want to do war anymore. I do not want to create any kind of military or standing army. Why? Because of the faith that countries like Japan had in global bodies like United Nations. Why did India manage to sign the Panchsheel? Today, we may look back and criticize the Congress government of the past, saying that India should never have trusted China. That's because China backstabbed us. But in reality, it is not something silly to be done. When you believe in your neighbors, when you have a look east policy, naturally your intention is let's do collective peace. Otherwise, how would India have survived between aggressive military nations like Pakistan, China? It was impossible, right? But India did negotiate. All these countries invested a lot of trust and faith in global powers. A very good example could also be NATO. Totally. Despite not being a global body, at least it created some kind of transatlantic peace between EU, that time EU was not there, so between Europe in general and the US. That was the broad intention behind all these. But then what happened? There are certain countries in the world today. Pakistan is a standing example. China is a big example. The biggest ever example is President Trump and his second tenure, US. All these countries have proven people like Japan, countries like India, Brazil, Mexico, Australia totally wrong. They have proven that multilateralism is not the way the world can function, and the power is always a zero sum game. A very important concept you will have to study in PSIR or any other optional that you choose, at least in the theory part. So, power is a zero sum game. This is the belief of countries like US and China that power cannot be shared, power cannot be distributed. Very few people can control power, and the world will always be a monopolistic or a duopolistic place to live in. Today, what we are experiencing is another version of Cold War. Cold War once saw USSR and US. Today we are seeing Cold War Part 2, in which you have China, Russia on the one side, of course US on the other side. The world is once again practically divided into two halves, the Eastern Hemisphere and the Western Hemisphere. And the change is so tremendous that even European Union nations, a group of 27 countries with powerful economies like Germany, Italy, France, even they have been reduced to the status of swing nations, just like India. So, what does Mr. Tharoor say? He says today international law and multilateral norms are weak. Major powers are following unilateral policies which say might is always right. Examples? So many. US invasion of Venezuela. US trying to station all its major military arsenal near Iran in the Arabian Sea. That's happening right now as you and I are talking, bache. US threatening use of force against Iran if the Oman mediated talks in Geneva that are going on now fail. China's aggressive policy on Hong Kong and Taiwan. Salami slicing, string of pearls, nine dash line, gray area zone politics. All these are examples of breaking multilateralism. Third, Russia's actions on Ukraine. Today, as you and I are talking, in Switzerland, Geneva, there is another negotiation going on, this time between Russia and Ukraine. Who is mediating? Your dear President Trump is mediating. Did you see in the last 1 week how many mediations have happened? Both in Geneva. One was the mediation done by Oman. Yes, Dukumport, Oman. Between Israel, between Oman mediated between Iran and US itself. Yesterday we saw that. Today what's happening? Today once again in Geneva, US is mediating between Russia and Ukraine. You saw that. What is going on really? A country like US, which is unilaterally attacking other countries, is also now mediating between Russia-Ukraine war. Can we see a more hypocritical world than what we see today? Highly doubtful. This is encouraging other countries to ignore sovereignty norms. Now, role model effect is a very predominant phenomena. When you will study social justice, you will study role model effect. We usually study role model effect in terms of gender empowerment. When we say that today we need more women in Lok Sabha, when we say we need more women in bureaucracy and sports. Why? Because we want to create a role model effect. 5 ladies in power could mean another 50 ladies in power through this role model inspiration effect. Similar is true in a very negative sense of global politics. Today, if countries like US, followed by Israel, followed by Russia, then China, if they keep on breaking the rules and orders of UN, WTO, IMF, will it not create a role model effect? Will it not create a role model effect to all others? Will it not inspire the swing states to now lose faith in multilateralism? It will. And how does it risk other countries? Risk is there because many other small countries are now succumbing in the pressure of swing politics. They are wasting their time and energy, not on thinking of their well-being, but in deciding which side should I take. A perfect example of swing country controversy, what India is experiencing right now. India was quite happy importing Russian oil. There was no problem. But now pressure is coming from US in the form of bilateral trade agreement and we have already reduced buying Russian oil at the risk of suffering a loss. In past, we have reduced buying Iranian and Venezuelan oil too. Is this not a standing example of how pressure leads to breakdown of a country's sovereignty? It does. Today, under US pressure, not only is our energy security from Russia under threat, but also India's own sovereign decisions like not opening agriculture, not opening the dairy, not buying genetically modified food. All these are threatened because of US intervention. And this is exactly what we call a decline of multilateralism. Which are the sectors which are impacted because of that? Well, the biggest sector is climate. Climate. We have seen examples. Have we not seen examples? We have seen examples. UNFCCC, Paris Agreement, 2015, America withdrew. Was that not a breakdown of climate-related multilateral commitment? It was. Have we seen US and Israel and China misusing and twisting the rules of World Health Organization? US undermining WTO, most favored nation protocol. 66 agencies of UN have been left behind, abandoned by President Trump. This is a perfect example of climate agreement declining. Not ready to support developing countries, not ready to respect common but differentiated responsibilities. Yes, Ramu, excessive protectionism. Absolutely. Another sector that suffers is health. If you remember, US also withdrew from Gavi, the international inter-country vaccine development platform. US withdrew from there as well. That means vaccine research, mRNA-based research, subsidizing vaccines to poor countries again declines. What about arms control framework? Have we not seen how treaties like CTBT could never be implemented because there was a lack of signatories? Have we not seen how NPT, Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, has also been abused? Because Iran is a part of NPT and still there is no trust. US is ready to show on Iran. That means it doesn't matter. Even if you sign NPT, US will always doubt you when it wants to. US can attack you when it wants to. Another paradox, Israel never signed NPT, but US has no problem with Israel. Then what about the New START Treaty? New START Treaty between US and Russia. You all know it is expiring. It has expired in February 2026. Are they ready to renew this? No, they are not. What does Russia say? Russia says, I will only renew it when countries like China also become a part of it. But US says it even more strongly, that there is no point in starting another refreshment of New START Treaty unless countries like China and North Korea can also invest in it. It is no point at all. Space debris problem, absolutely. What are we looking at? We are looking at a world where multilateralism has no value. Not at all. And this is creating a power vacuum. A power vacuum which will tomorrow be filled by nations like China, and China now will have an upper hand in controlling global institutions because US and Russia are failing to do that. European Union is busy dealing with its own military issues. Nobody is there to provide leadership to global platforms. That's a perfect opportunity for China. What are the structural problems in global governance right now? According to Dr. Tharoor, all these institutions that were created in after World War II, including UN, WTO, IMF, all these were idealistic in nature. These were too perfect to be true, too idealistic. They were unequal in structure. You see, the biggest example is United Nations Security Council. Why a country like India, even today, is not a member of UNSC? Agreed. Some mistake was made in the past. China got an upper hand and China got the seat. But does it mean we should not expand and reform UNSC to include leading global powers like India? Without participation of swing nations, without any participation of Global South, a limited membership of P5, that is United Nations Security Council, will never survive because very few countries use veto power. Every time Russia wants to take a revenge on US, it will use veto. China will use veto on its behalf. Every time any other country like European Union country or Japan, any nation that wants to teach a lesson to US passes a veto. So therefore, there is an endless scope of war in this world today because power is concentrated only in 5 countries. No other country has that power. And that internally means a weakening of legitimacy. Without legitimacy, there is no authority. Power becomes a nude show of power. And why are the pillars of international order weakening? Because today, article Mr. Tharoor says there are clear-cut about 7 principles of international order, and each of these are crumbling right now. Which pillars are these? According to Dr. Tharoor, these pillars are sovereignty. Is sovereignty safe today? No. Whether it is Pahalgam attack, whether it is the capture of Nicolas Maduro from Venezuela, most countries have broken down Article 2.4 of United Nations Charter that guarantees sovereignty. Then, non-aggression. Again, this principle was used to create maximum aggression. What about collective security? Where is collective security? Who is coming and giving security to Venezuela, Cuba? Who is coming and trying to protect Greenland? Who is favoring Ukraine? And who will tomorrow protect Iran? Hardly anybody. In fact, people are busy thinking of their own benefit. There is no such global order which can force countries to be in their limits. None. Then, what about free trade? Is this free trade? Where even today, in order to reduce tariff from 50 to 18%, we have to make ugly compromises like stop Russian oil, allow GMO food, open up our agriculture and dairy sector, make our farmers suffer losses. Is this free trade? Is this called as most favored nation protocol? Totally not. Totally not. What about multilateral cooperation? Is this multilateral cooperation? No. It is a United States of America led unilateral monopoly. That's all it is about. So, despite challenges today in the world, although international courts are still functioning. For example, International Criminals Court. Now, this bacha is not a part of United Nations. United Nations has its own judiciary wing called International Court of Justice, okay, which has about 9 to 11 judges. It is headquartered in the Netherlands in a place called Hague, Den Haag. But paradoxically, there is another global institution called International Criminal Court. It is also headquartered in The Hague, but it is not a part of United Nations. The only difference is that although International Court of Justice can send summons and notices to institutions, not individuals, ICC, the criminals court, can also send arrest warrant and notifications to individuals accused of war, genocide. In past, Mr. Putin has received a notice from ICC. Mr. Netanyahu also received a notice from ICC. In fact, that was the reason why people were saying why Mr. Putin did not come to attend the G20 summit in South Africa, because he has an arrest warrant. How could he come? He could not have come. Okay, so that's the thing. Now, all these institutions are still surviving. They do their best. A very good example where they have been successful. Does any one of you remember about Diego Garcia? Which of my student remembers about Diego Garcia, bacche? Diego Garcia? Who remembers about Diego Garcia? Where is Diego Garcia? Where is it located in the Indian Ocean? What happened recently, last month? It was because of an order given by International Court of Justice. Yes, Perukula, that. Very good, Reshma. Reshma is here today. Very good. The Chagos Island controversy. Very good, bache. Now, what happened here? International Court of Justice had given an order. Because of that order, United Kingdom agreed to return Diego Garcia finally back to which country? Which country was Mauritius? Very good. So Chagos Island was returned to Mauritius. But Diego Garcia is also a place which has a very important military base of UK and US. So therefore, as of now, it has obtained leasing licenses to maintain Diego Garcia, the specific military base. But because of ICJ intervention, the entire area, Chagos Island, was given back to Mauritius. Although President Trump was shouting on UK also. He said, why did you give it back? Why did you have to listen? All those things will happen from America, but still ICJ jurisdiction was valued. Now, a very good point is being reminded by Satya also. Similarly, ICJ had also told that Pre-Vihir temple on the border of Thailand and Cambodia actually belongs to Cambodia. But still Thailand doesn't respect that. So there are countries who will not respect, but still at least some countries are still following these protocols, and that is a very good thing. That's a very good thing. At the same time, what about trade? Trade still broadly depends on rule. Agreed that US keeps breaking the WTO protocols and rules of origin and MFN, but still most countries are still respecting trade rules. Example, yesterday we saw the example of UK, right, and EU. We saw how Bangladesh and India are different situations. Bangladesh is getting till 2029 a benefit, everything but arms. Everything but arms. EBA scheme, because Bangladesh is very poor. So no tariff on Bangladesh from EU. That is respecting of global order. But India does pay a decent amount of tariff, say 12%, but it is not extra for India. It's with all the partners of EU regarding most favored nation protocols. That is also rule and order, which is a very good thing. But the main problem is middle powers like India, EU, Brazil, South Africa, Canada. They continue to support multilateralism. What should they also do? If they start favoring US, there is no guarantee. They will take enmity from Russia, China. If they start supporting Russia, US will teach them a lesson. You see what to do as a swing power. As a swing power, you are always swinging. Like India also has been doing the same thing. What choice do we have? Sometimes listen to US because you need US for Quad, for anti-China balancing. Sometimes listen to Russia. because you need Russia, long term friendship. Sometimes also listen to China, continue with your bilateral trade with China. What choice do you have? You have economic needs also, right? So the present system is very weak. It is very unilateral. It is a complete murder of multilateralism, but still, it is almost like an interregnum phase. The world is in a new transition phase. As older institutions are weakening, there is a chance new institutions will come. And here, powerful swing countries like India, like EU, like Brazil might have a very important role to play. What will be the future outcome according to Mr. Tharoor? Either the world will become complete China dominated, Chinese centric world order, or there will be a competing geopolitics between US, China, Russia, and Europe. Or we will have better issue based global alliances determined by swing states. Or there shall be a complete war. There is no other outcome that Mr. Tharoor can think of right now apart from lamenting about what is happening right now and having a positive hope for the future. Good morning, those who are joining now. That's completely okay. I'm so happy to see everyone. Okay. Quickly, the question, Bache. With reference to rules based liberal international order, look at the following statements. 1. The post World War II international order was built on the principles of sovereign, equality, collective security, peaceful dispute resolution. 2. Multilateral institutions created after the Second World War distributed authority and responsibility equally among all countries. 3. Contemporary global challenges like pandemic, climate change can be effectively addressed through unilateral national actions. And 4, middle powers often support multilateralism because it reduces dependence on dominant global politic powers. Which of these are true? Answers are rolling in from my dear Reshma, Terukula, Sweetie, Anoop, Sitaram, Madhav, Kavish, Ashish. Okay. Shlok, Sadhana. Yes, Rajneshwar. And Shlok says, ma'am, there is no verdict right now. Okay, okay. And what about other students? I'm not seeing many new students participating neither here nor in Telegram. But you have to answer. You have to kill that fear that my answer is not going to be correct. It is totally all right. Just answer. Think and answer. You must have that confidence, else in prelims it will be tough. I have seen best and the most intellectual students also nervous in answering. They do not want to take mock tests, they don't like doing sample papers because of the fear. I know, but I can't perform. You have to break that thing, come and participate. Eric, Yuvraj, Akhtar, my dear Prasad. Okay, not equally distributed. So everyone says that the answer here is A. So completely believing in all of you, let's break it down. 1. The World War II international order was built on sovereign equality, collective security. Totally correct. That's the reason we had United Nations, WTO, IMF. One is valid. One is valid. Let's eliminate seat quickly. Second, multilateral institutions distributed responsibility equally? No, they did not. Unfortunately, not at all. And as Reshma has told us, United Nations Security Council is a perfect example of that there is no kind of equal power distribution. When only P5 countries have all the veto power, you can't even expect equality. Second is wrong. Let's eliminate B totally. Third, contemporary global changes like pandemics can be addressed through unilateral national actions? Not at all. Unilateralism is a poison for today. What we need is multilateralism. What US is doing is unilateral. What China does is unilateral, and that is the killer today of all the world peace and transparency. We don't want that. Third is invalid, making A correct, and fourth is totally right. Because swing states, middle powers are what? Middle powers are bacha swing states. Tomorrow, if somebody asks you, can you give me an example of swing states? Yes. India is a swing state. Brazil is a swing state. Mexico is a swing state. European Union completely, 27 bloc is a swing state. Canada is a swing state. All these nations then have a hard time in swinging from right to left. Russia, US, or China. What to do? Yes. So therefore, A is the right answer. Do I need to clap for my students? Of course, I need to. And that too, standing ovation I want to give because of this wonderful, thoughtful performance. Very well done. I hope it's clear to everyone. Some new students are answering. Makes me really happy. Okay. Vanga, correct. Urupam, totally correct. Urupam answers every day. I know that. And it's totally right as always. Kritik, Mavi, Vaibhav, any doubts? Let me know, bache. Okay. Second article, also editorial. And what does it talk about? Bache, this is talking about GS paper 2, at the same time GS paper 3. Why? Because GS paper 2 means we are looking into Supreme Court, the Honorable Supreme Court of India, one of the orders that it has recently released. Why GS paper 3? Because it is also related to science, food and nutrition. Food and nutrition. Okay, so both these are distributed across these papers. What does this article say? This article is discussing the controversy over front of package labeling. We can say this is known as FOPL. What is FOPL? Suppose I buy a food product, a packet of chips or a packet of biscuits. Whatever is written in the front is very important because as a consumer, the first thing I'm going to see is exactly the front label. Very few people even today have the time, awareness, and sensibility to turn back and in detail break down all the labels, nutrition codes, and the notification of FSSAI. Hardly anybody is doing that. Very few people really do that. Maximum people look at price and expiry date. That's it. Content label awareness is very poor in India. So Supreme Court of India with regards to this says that let us have international standards to ensure food security to Indian citizens. By saying that, they are referring to front of the package labeling. So what does the Honorable Court say? Honorable Court says that Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, FSSAI, has to now start considering, it has to now start thinking about mandatory front of package warning labels. Very good, Vikash. Absolutely correct. Why? Because majority of foods that you and I are consuming nowadays, especially packaged foods, refined, ready to eat products, all of them are extremely high in a component called HFSS, high fat, salt, and sugar diet. And this is the main reason why India is becoming a capital of non communicable diseases in the world. About 2 3 days before, we had spoken about it, and Reshma and Saurav and Sumedh and Kritik were giving us the exact data on this. If I was to ask you to look into this paradox, I will say, Bacha, what percentage of GDP are we spending on healthcare sector? Can anybody tell me? What percentage of healthcare do we spend on GDP? How much do we spend? Can anybody tell me? Absolutely, Shlok. 0.26% of GDP, yes, Ramu, is something that we are spending on health. Look at this. And now compare this with the fact that in India, 101 million people are victims of diabetes, according to a data by Indian Council of Medical Research. 101 million people have diabetes, additional 136 million people have insulin resistance. Hypertension is about in more than 35% of people living in India, and unfortunately, majority of these people who were analyzed are below 45 years of age. Do you see the paradox? Less than 1% of health goes to GDP. That means out of pocket expenditure, hardly any insurance. And the level of disease, NCD, non communicable, is on the rise day by day. This is why the Honorable Court has said every food product must have a clear cut front of packet labeling that must tell how much sugar, salt, fat, and saturated fat particularly has been added to this product. The court has said that these labels always will apply to packaged foods which are in general higher in sugar, salt, saturated fat, and the court has ordered FSSAI to submit its response within 4 weeks. Within a period of 1 month, we have to start responding now. What's the main objective? What's the main objective? The main objective is to protect citizens' right to health by helping consumers make informed food choices. That's the whole agenda. Why like that? Because if you look at Indian Constitution, you might argue there is no exact fundamental right that gives people a right to good health. But all these rights that are related to your right to healthy life are an integral part of Article 21. Right to life, right to liberty. All these presuppose that there is a right to health. Now, few days before in India, we have done something revolutionary. We have also guaranteed menstrual right, menstrual health and menstrual hygiene also as right to life. That is, it will also be right to health under Article 21. Similarly, right to healthy food, right to be informed about labeling is crucial aspect of Article 21 because we need to inform citizens in the right manner. Now, why does front of package labeling matter so much? Because scientific evidence has proven that ultra processed food will always lead to non-communicable disease like diabetes, hypertension, and cardiovascular disease. Yes, cardiovascular disease. Now, if you look at the data of these diseases, I'm sure it will be a shock to so many people. It's very shocking. Why? Because all the data from Indian Council of Medical Research in 2023 has shown, as I said, 101 million people are diabetic. Another 136 million are going to become diabetic. Hypertension 35.5%. Obesity, excessive fat, abdominal fat. Sometimes you also measure it in the form of visceral fat. Visceral fat is what is the distribution of total fat in your body? Are your organs experiencing a fat deposition? A lot of you might have heard non-alcoholic fatty liver has become so common in India. 1 in every 4 people are complaining of that, and all these are young people, by the way. Yes, so obesity is high, high cholesterols, particularly LDL, low density lipoprotein, and triglycerides. Triglycerides, both are extremely high in young people. All these lead to eventually blockage of the coronary artery, and that leads to unexpected heart attacks. That explains why so many people are getting heart attacks and cardiac problems at such an early stage. Then stroke, paralysis, very, very common. Cancers are very common. So NCDs are becoming a major public health challenge for a country. We can have a clarity on that also. 1.9 or 2.6, chalo, we can do that later. But whatever. Bacha, my point is anyway it's less than 2% of GDP, right? If you compare it with US, EU or other South Asian countries, less than 5% is a challenge. We are saying less than 2% of GDP goes to healthcare. And look at the amount of health problems that we are facing. 24% of population having high cholesterol is something. It is a danger, nothing short of that. Plus, of course, drug abuse, tobacco abuse, depression, these are on the rise too. Again, these are non-communicable. So, what to do in this case? In this case, there was a petition that was filed by an NGO. The name of the NGO is Our Health Society. Our Health Society. This NGO in 2025 raised a petition to the Supreme Court and said, why can't we order FSSAI to make an expert committee to now do an amendment to Food Safety and Standard Labeling and Display Regulation 2020. As per the Food Safety Labeling and Display Regulation 2020, we must have given more clarity to our consumers about exactly the amount of processed sugar, amount of refined salt in the product. But that is not happening. At least on the front label, nothing of that is mentioned. Now, FSSAI, how did it respond? It said, I want some time. I want some time to make this high power committee because across India, companies will start retaliating. Now, food industry is a major participant and a major contributor to GDP. Now, let's not forget, India is a highly liberalized economy. In the food sector, you have so many multinational companies that work. Imagine stopping Domino's, Pizza Hut, KFC, McDonald's, and all other brands that deal with refined processed food, fast food, junk food. If we suddenly create regulations on them, it will create a business crisis too. So FSSAI said, I want some time. Right. But now in February 2026, the Supreme Court clearly said that I am not satisfied with the performance done by FSSAI. Not good. You must expedite. See, it is not a small matter. It is about India's health and demographic potential. It's about burden on the government. So you can't take your jolly good time. You must act quickly and make a panel immediately. Forthwith create a panel. The panel will now make it clear to the customers about how to understand and decode front page, front packet labeling in any product that they buy. What is the key disagreement all about? FSSAI is saying, let's create an Indian nutrition rating model, a separate model altogether that suits India's health system. But the petitioner, the NGO, Health for Society, has opposed. It says we can't have our own Indian nutrition rating model. We must have something that is accepted the world over. Let us not create something exclusively for India. Why do we need that? Why can't we standardize to match global norms? That is very important. Why do you need a unique nutritional rating model just for your country? Because if you look at the front of package labeling, it is very important. It informs the buyers about unhealthy ingredients. It informs the buyers to have healthier choices. It will also pressure the food processing industry to reduce harmful chemicals, colors, additives, preservatives. All these are carcinogenic, most of them. They help in preventive healthcare. They will also scare the consumer, at least even if I am eating something processed. If I am doing it with information, it is my choice. But if I'm being diluted by a company in the name of no palm oil, no refined sugar, no salt, and still I'm eating it by being deluded, then it is not fair. It is cheating. And that should not be allowed, right? So this article says front of package labeling is just the same old debate where now the policy has shifted towards please begin doing prevention. Prevention is better than cure. And with right labels, today Honorable Court has created a new public health regulatory debate which focuses on consumer awareness by tightening the protocols on FSSAI and food labeling industries. Totally correct. Totally correct. Most of these products are deluding consumers in the name of added protein. No zero sugar. Informed people are doing that. And most people aren't even informed, and that's the worst part. Yes, all these instant noodles, biscuit, and things that play up on your taste buds, which we all do as a part of binging, eating, anxiety cope mechanism, it's very dangerous for health. Yes? Okay. What's the controversy all about? What are my nerds arguing about? Okay, still we are on with the total budgetary expenditure of GDP on healthcare. Okay, we will decode this controversy. First, let's quickly answer the question and we'll come back to that. Okay, Vikash already answers now. With reference to front of package labeling in India, look at these statements. One, the Honorable Supreme Court has directed FSSAI to immediately implement mandatory front of package labels on all processed foods. Two, the Indian nutrition rating model proposed by FSSAI is universally acceptable as a global standard for front of package labeling. And three, front of package labeling is intended to help prevent non-communicable disease by enabling consumers to make informed food choices, dietary choices. Which of these are valid? I can see a mild split here. Rajneeshwar, Vaibhav, Kavish, began from Vikash, Ashish, Apex, Reshma Sitaram already answered, Levino answered, Santosh answered. I see a split over here. Most people are saying B, but then some are saying C as well. Okay, looks like a tight war. Let's try to decode. Let's invoke the Lokpal. 1. What has the Supreme Court said? Does the court tell? Has the court told FSSAI to immediately make a mandatory warning? No. The court has told FSSAI to create an expert committee to now consider the prospect of creating a front of package labeling. So 1 cannot be correct, eliminating D. Second, Indian nutrition model is proposed by FSSAI. Yes. Is it universally acceptable? Absolutely no. Who says it is universally acceptable? It is not acceptable at all. That is why petitioners are arguing that if we create an Indian specific rating model, how are we going to help our consumers? We must create a model that is globally acceptable. If you create an Indian rating model, what about the foreign foods that we eat? Those that are imported in our country. Food industry is one of the most globalized industries. We will still consume noodles, biscuits, and chips and pasta from outside. Will they also follow Indian nutrition rating? No. So what will the consumer face? Dichotomy. Can you now tell your consumer only eat Indian made product because it has Indian specific rating? No, it's very controversial. So second cannot be correct either. If second is correct, we can eliminate A and B, making C the right answer. Now D, front of package labeling is intended to help people make healthier choices. Absolutely. Because if people have awareness, only then there is a prospect of a healthy choice. Now what about the fact that people don't even know and still they consume so much junk and crappy food? That is very dangerous for people. And most people aren't aware. It's not their fault. People will eat what is tasty, they will eat what is affordable. Now, what explains obesity in America? Are Americans not aware people? Of course, they are very aware, very educated. Literacy rate is very high. Still, people are obese. Why? It's lack of awareness. It is lack of money also. It's very paradoxical, very counterintuitive. When we look at people, we believe that those who are very thin and skinny are the ones who are eating less food. And those who are fat and obese are the ones who are eating all the time. And nothing can be fake than that. Nothing can be a bigger lie than that. It's not true. In US, majority people are obese because they are poor. They can't afford salads and fruits and protein-based diet. So what do they consume? Cheap burgers, cheap sandwiches, cheap pizzas. They survive on that. That explains obesity. Obesity can be a result of poverty as well. Highly likely. Obesity can be a result of malnourishment as well. Very possible. So either it is your taste bud or it is your pocket that determines your consumer basket, okay? Absolutely. And then there are genetics, and then there are, different kind of metabolic rates. All that is also there. So presuming and being judgmental about appearance and saying that fat is related to more food, thin body is related to less food, no, all that is medically a very unacceptable argument really. Correct. We are also doing the same thing. Now, the same controversy is with regards to mineral water. People say the moment we open a mineral water bottle, I mean, I don't want to be hypocritical here. I've done the same thing 10 minutes before. I'm not saying I'm the best person who makes healthy choice. We all see convenience. And people are saying you are consuming thousands of microplastics as you do that. Bad. That's what awareness is all about. When educated people are doing that, then imagine how many more people do. Yes? Let's proceed with the next article. My intellectuals, let's proceed with the next article quickly. Yes? See, that's what everyone is doing that. Look at that. Absolutely. And I don't mean to be hypocritical. We all make those bad choices. So have I. I just had this water. But that's not good actually in reality. Okay, the next article, text page. On the importance of satire. A very interesting article, bache. This is regarding GS paper 2. Of course, it is polity and governance. Specifically, we are looking at two constitutional mandates here. One is Article 19(1)(a), right to free speech and expression. Another is Article 19(2), restrictions on free speech and expression. Yes? What is this article all about? Please focus. Article is saying that very recently there was a debate between government regulation of online content and freedom of speech and expression, especially satire, cartoons, comedy. What is satire? Beautifully said, Ramu, my vocabulary master. What does he say? He says it is about a critical thinking which mirrors the reality of society. Absolutely true. That is sarcasm. It invokes a sense of absurdity, a sense of humor. In a very indirect way, you are using an art, a tool of literary, it's a literary device to create a sense of reality among people. But this article is saying recently there was a cartoon video of our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Modi. But it was blocked from a news portal's social media account. This blocking was justified on the grounds of national security and defense. National security and defense. And reputation of the country. And India's foreign relationship. This is what happened. So one of these social media had published a cartoon of our Prime Minister. It was removed, saying that it creates an embarrassment for the country. It is not in the interest of national security and decorum. But this has triggered once more a debate about media and artistic expression in India. Now, which article in India deals with right to free speech and expression? Under the broader Article 19, that is right to freedom, we have 19(1)(a), that is about right to free speech and expression, which should include poetry, satire, articles, videos, text, movies, cinema, everything that is being chosen by an artist just to portray his vision of society. That's totally fine. Today, this article is arguing Blocking online content in India is usually governed by one protocol. Now, I want you to focus on this protocol. In India, blocking any online content is regulated by Section 69A. Please remember, Section 69A of Information Technology Act 2000. What does this act say? Section 69A of the IT Act 2000 gives the central government the power to block public access to online content, website, application, social media post. And this is the legal basis in India which you can use to block or stop online content streaming. It was created via the Information Technology Rules 2009-2021 Amendment. And in this article, what's the key argument? The argument in this article is that the new IT Amendment Rules 2026 require platforms to remove illegal content within 3 hours of government notification. If the government is notifying a social media platform, it could be YouTube, it could be Instagram, it could be any other one, it could be X, Twitter. If they are telling that remove this content immediately by using their power under Section 69 of the IT Act 2000, then within 3 hours, the social media will have to remove it immediately. You all understand that. If social media can remove it within 3 hours, social media is safe. As Vikash says, Section 79 of the IT Act, safe harbor clause. If you can remove it in 3 hours, you are safe. That's not your problem. But then if you fail to remove that content in 3 hours, then the social media platform will be blamed for not listening to the government and punitive action will take place. Then in India, we also have another portal. You may have heard about this portal. It is called Sahyog portal. Sahyog portal. Sahyog in English means support. Under this portal, there is an automatic content blocking notice that is issued to social media platform. Courts today are reviewing whether these actions are too extreme or are they okay with with reference to right to free speech and expression. Is it okay to create such strict laws like Section 69A, like 79, Safe Harbor Protocol, like 3 hour deadline to remove the content and automatic content removal under Sahyog portal? Are these okay? Or are they becoming too strict? Are we trying to negate the value of Article 19(1)(a, right to free speech and expression? That is the whole legal debate all about. Now, Supreme Court of India has its own position when it comes to right to free speech and satire. Courts in India have repeatedly said one thing. They said satire and cartoons are protected because they are free speech and expression. Satire exposes social and political problems through exaggeration and humor. There is nothing wrong in that. When you are creating a satire against the government in a very funny way, in a very non provocative manner, you are just making people aware of reality. You are expressing your discontentment and unhappiness towards the government. Expression should be judged from a perspective of a reasonable person, not a hypersensitive person. Don't act in such a hypersensitive way. If somebody has made a cartoon or somebody has made a photo that is, you feel that's insulting a leader, insulting a party. Now, why are you choosing to be so hypersensitive about it? You should take it in a very in a very modernistic spirit. You must understand that it is being done because these are expressions of an artist. These are not meant to humiliate anyone, so don't be hypersensitive about it. Now this therefore is again controversial because honorable Supreme Court has repeatedly said that blocking content is okay. You can block online content using Section 69A of IT Act, using Sahyog portal. You can issue notices to social media companies and protect them under Safe Harbor Protocol. So content can be removed. But there is one thing that we have to remember. If you are telling a company or a platform to remove content, it should only be in the situation where that content is breaking the protocol of 19(2) restriction. If that content is covered under 19(2), Article 19(2), reasonable restriction, then you can block and remove that content. But otherwise, you can't. Because if Article 19(1)(a) gives you free speech and expression, Article 19(2) gives you the clause of reasonable restrictions. Freedom of speech can be controlled if it is crossing reasonable restrictions, if it is not within the limit of public morality, national sovereignty, security, peace. If it is hate speech, if it is communal in nature, it will be removed. If it is trying to insult or derogate the status of women in India, it will be removed. But reasonable restrictions are the only way they can be removed. If all this content is respecting reasonable restriction, you can't remove it. And the reasons have to be given in writing. When you want somebody to remove content, give a written reason for that. Both intermediaries and content creators should be listened to. Now, this leads us to a very important Supreme Court case. And this case is about Shreya Singhal versus Union of India case 2015. But let me explain what is this case all about. Listen carefully. This case had challenged in the court Section 69A of the Information Technology Act 2000 because this section criminalizes sending offensive or annoying messages online. But Section 69 under this case was criticized because terms like offensive, annoying are very vague and abstract. They are subjective. What is annoying to one person may not be annoying to another. What is humiliating to one person may not be humiliating or provocative to another. This leads to arbitrary arrest and misuse. The political parties can arrest anyone, order anyone under 69A of IT Act to remove the content because they feel it is against their honor, against their respect and their agenda. And that is not the intention at all of the IT Act. IT Act is not a personal property of anybody in India. So, under Shreya Singhal, petitioner said that 69A is against right to free speech and expression. We should remove it immediately. It has arbitrary words like humiliating, offensive. They have no reality and they are very, very abstract. They are very vague. It is threatening the freedom of speech on internet. What did the court do? What did Supreme Court do? Supreme Court acted immediately and the Supreme Court of India therefore quickly struck down Section 66A as unconstitutional. This is what Supreme Court did. Supreme Court of India, after reviewing the case, immediately struck down another clause of the IT Act. This was Section 66A. What is 66A? Just like 69A gives the government the power to block or remove content, Section 66A of the same IT Act criminalizes any such content that is insulting to anyone. But who decides what is insulting? Court agreed that in Shreya Singhal case, the matter is correct. Petitioners are saying the right thing. Absolutely, who will decide what is humiliating, what is sensitive, what is insulting? These are abstract words. They are very individualistic and interpretive words. And hence the court totally struck down 66A of the IT Act. 66A because it was being misused for arbitrary arrest and harassment of journalists and artists. And Supreme Court said it is unconstitutional. Why? Because 66A, which is criminalizing content, is violating Article 19(1)(a). It is not protected under Article 19(2) reasonable restrictions. It means laws will continue to be narrowly used and interpreted by government bodies. So, what did the court say? Court said that, okay, Supreme Court's decision is that 69A section is still valid. Let's continue with that. Let's continue 69A. Let's give the government the power to remove the content, but only with written reason. All the reasons must fit Article 19(2) reasonable restriction, otherwise you can't. But let us totally remove 66A. You can't criminalize a content and you can't allow harassment of artists. That's what the court said. Court said blocking a content must follow due procedure and reasons must be given in writing and orders are still subject to review by court. Both intermediaries, social media platform and content creators should be heard by the courts in future. We should not punish anybody on the basis of suspicion and hypersensitivity of somebody else. Artistic expression from the beginning in India has been the rockbed of democracy. During the times of independence, people like Sarojini Naidu, Rabindranath Tagore, with their art, with their songs, used to inculcate patriotism. They used to criticize British government. Was that a wrong thing to do? No. It was a very valid thing to do because that creates the pillar of democracy. Without sarcasm, without criticism, democracy becomes lame. It becomes autocracy. And the article therefore says there are increasing cases of India right now of blocking online content. This shows growing intolerance. Now, a country that is polycultural like us, heavily populated like us, regional like us, cannot afford to be so narrow minded and so hypersensitive towards criticism. And therefore, in India, Article 19A has, 191A has, and it will continue to protect free speech and expression. And every time, now in one line I am summarizing, every time you are ordering a platform to remove a content, you can only do it under Section 69A of the IT Act with written reason. And all these reasons must come under reasonable restrictions of Article 19(2). Beyond that, you can't remove the content. And 66A has been removed. No criminal penalty for any kind of online content. Okay, so that is what this article was all about. Quickly, let's do a question here. With reference to freedom of speech and online content regulation in India, look at these statements, bache. 1. Article 19(1)A of our constitution guarantees freedom of speech and expression. And Article 19(2) allows reasonable restrictions, including those related to public order, security of state, and friendly relations with foreign countries. 2. Under constitutional jurisprudence, blocking online content by the government must be consistent with 19(2). And procedural safeguards were emphasized by the Honorable Court in Shreya Singhal versus Union of India case. Every time, bache, you hear about Shreya Singhal case, just remember one word of mine. That once on 18th February, ma'am had said Section 69A and Section 66A. While 69A is valid, 66A was removed. Okay, Shreya Singhal case. 3. Article 21 of the Constitution clearly, explicitly guarantees right to artistic expression, including satire and cartoons. Which of these are valid? Really? Split verdict once again. Oh my goodness, split verdict once again. Article 21. Right to artistic expression, including satire and cartoons. Everyone says B is the right answer. Is it the right answer, really? Shlok, Kritik, Sadhana, Apex, Madhav, Vaibhav, Vikash? Really? All of them are correct, Satya? Is it? First one? First one is totally correct, right? First is correct, then C cannot be correct. Second, blocking online content by government must be consistent with 19(2). Procedural safeguards in Shreya Singhal case, second is also correct. If second is also correct, then A cannot be the answer. Now, between B and D, we are very confused. Explicitly AB means clearly. Something that you say clearly, very clearly in clear words. Does Article 21 do that? What is Article 21? Right to life. Right to life and liberty. Right to a life of dignity. Does it clearly give artistic expression freedom? I don't know. Let's keep the suspense on. Think, and the answer we will do in the last part of the slide. So everybody remember the controversy. Half students are saying that Article 21 clearly gives us right to artistic expression. All of these statements are correct. Satire and cartoon is my right under Article 21, right to life itself. Some students are saying no. Article 21 clearly doesn't give me this right. It only deals with right to life itself, freedom, liberty. So let's do it in the last slide then. Yes, let's quickly proceed. This is a very interesting article, but for this article, you will have to travel a little bit with me. So where are we going today? We are going to France. We are going to European Union. Why are we going there? I'll let you know. You enjoy France journey by looking at this map in detail. And when you see this map, I do expect that each one of you should know exactly the political boundaries of this country that we are discussing. France. You can see the boundaries of the France. A very tiny tot country on the leftern border of the France, Andorra. Yes. You can see Spain, one of the largest borders with France. You can see other small countries like Luxembourg. Luxembourg, one of the richest countries of the world, highest per capita income, right here. You can see Belgium right here. You can see Netherlands right here. You can see Germany, the big country whose chancellor had visited India recently. Germany, the topmost economy in European Union, the third largest economy in the world. You can look at other countries here in the border like Switzerland. Switzerland has been in the news 2 times because both the peace talks, one between US Iran mediated by Oman, and second between Russia Ukraine mediated by US. Both are happening in Switzerland, Geneva. Look at Italy. Italy here, almost the third largest economy in European Union. Miss Meloni, the right-wing leader. Yes, you can see France here. Look at the Atlantic Ocean. Look at the proximity with the United Kingdom. Should have a broad idea of the map, really. Gland, IUCN, very good. TIPA with 4 dedicated countries of EU. Monaco, that's famous for its F1 car racing. Absolutely, very, very good. Hammer missiles, brilliant, bache. Now let's see what is happening. Focus, please. Also look at the EU countries here. Try to understand the boundaries of EU country. If I give you a map, you should know that which country is in the absolute right side of EU, from where Ukraine boundary starts, like Romania, Poland. You should know all that, okay? All right? Okay. Fine, Vaibhav. We will see that in the last article. Now, quickly, let's do this. India and France are doing a defense cooperation. This is GS Paper 2 International Relations. India and France have renewed, I repeat, they both have renewed their defense cooperation agreement for another 10 years. Another 10 years, bache, 2036. All of us will become old by then. 2036. 10 more years of defense cooperation between India and France. It was announced under the 6th India-France Annual Defense Dialogue that was held in Karnataka, Bengaluru. The dialogue was chaired from India's Defence Minister, Mr. Rajnath Singh, and French counterpart. Now, this shows a continuing strategic defense partnership between India and France. And which are the key deals between India and France? The biggest has been the Rafale deal. Recently, India ordered another about 100 plus Rafale air jets from France. Yes? So, when India is importing the Rafale jet from France, there is one thing clear here. India is not saying that France should give me ready-made Rafale fighter jets. No, we don't want ready-made aircraft. In this meeting, India has actually requested France that please increase India's domestic content in the France-based Rafale aircraft up to 50%. So India is saying, I am importing technology. But India told France that 50% of Rafale aircraft components should be manufactured in India under Atmanirbharta because we also need job creation. We also want indigenization. Second, India and France said, let us expand maintenance, repair and overhaul facilities in India. Tomorrow, if there is any problem in these Rafale jets, then they should be able to get repaired in India. We should not need foreign support for that. This will support Make in India in defense sector. Defense budget clearly shows a move towards capital expenditure. This is exactly about that. Now, what are the other agendas here? Both countries have agreed to strengthen co-development and co-production of defense equipment. If you remember, last to last week, India has done another defense security dialogue with UAE and Saudi Arabia both. With them also, India is now co-producing defense material. With France also, India will co-produce defense equipment. Better military to military cooperation. Connecting defense industries, especially in niche technologies. What are niche technologies? New technologies. AI-based technology. Both the countries are also saying, let us create a reciprocal deployment of officers between Indian and French land forces who can coordinate interoperability between two armies. Then, there will be a joint missile manufacturing between both the countries. And which are the two companies that have signed the pact for joint missile manufacture? Joint missile manufacturing. These companies are from India, Bharat Electronic Limited, from France, Safran. Safran Electronics and Defense Limited. Both these companies will together create what? Missile manufacturing. Which missiles are these? Hammer missiles. Which missiles are these, bache? Hammer missiles. Apex is drawing a diagram also. So sweet. Hammer missiles. What does hammer mean? What is the meaning of hammer? Hammer means highly agile, modular munition extended range. Don't worry about the notes, everything I've written here. Hammer means, what is hammer? Hammer means highly agile, highly active, modular munition extended range. It is what? A precision guided air to ground missile. Precision guided air to ground missile. Weapon system developed by France. What does it reflect? It reflects technology transfer, defense industry cooperation between India and France. Okay. Now, India and France have recommitted to each other that we will work for regional stability and Indo-French strategic alignment. This is the article all about. That's it for this article. But as UPSC students, our business is not over yet. There are few more things I want all my students to know by heart. Which of these things I want you to know by heart? Listen carefully. Knowing that both the countries are indigenizing Rafale and they will co-develop hammer. They will co-develop hammer. Precision guided air to ground weapon is not enough. What I want you to know is, now listen carefully. Why does India need France? Why? India needs France because France is a very powerful country. I told you, but Germany is the topmost economy in European Union. Which is the second biggest economy in European Union? France. France is the second top economy of EU. India and France are together stakeholders in maintaining stability and transparency in the Indo-Pacific area. France highly supports initiatives like Quad from outside. France is totally concerned about Chinese expansion and it continues to support India whether it's against Pakistan or whether it's against China. Yes? Second important point. France told that India is a security provider in the Indian Ocean and Indo-Pacific, and France will support India whenever there is a crisis in that area. I just told you France is the second last economy. Then which are the top 3 economies of EU? If you get a question, what will you do? What are the top 3 economies of 27 member bloc EU? First, Germany. Second, France. Third, Miss Meloni, Italy. Then what else is important? As my dear students are already saying, Shlok, Vineet. France is a P5 country. France is a P5 country. France is one of the 5 permanent members of United Nations Security Council. France is a member of the G7. Let me write down here. France is a P5 country, correct. Group of 5 permanent countries at United Nations Security Council with a veto power. It can help India. How is it helping India? France is encouraging India's membership in United Nations Security Council. Multiple times in the past, France has supported that India should become a member of P5. Second, France is a member of G7 country. France is a member of the entire G7 countries, which themselves, group of 7, is an informal forum of leading industrialized nations of the world. So 2 things we learned. France comes from P5. Now some debate is there. Which are the total members of the P5 countries? US, UK, France, Russia, China. So France is a member of P5 and it supports India's membership. Another, I just said France is a member of G7. Why was G7 in the news? Because I told you, till 2014 it was not G7, it was G8. Why was Russia removed? Because Russia captured Crimea. As a punishment, Russia was thrown out of G8 and after 27, G8 became G7 again. Yes, France is a member of G7. Then, another important platform, France is not just a member, but also, along with India, France is a key founding member of International Solar Alliance, an initiative created in 2015 by India and France jointly. Once Vikash had told us, Moldova is the latest member to join International Solar Alliance. Very good for that. ISA is headquartered in Gurugram. Yes. And when was it launched? It was launched in 2015 at which summit? Conference of Parties 21 summit. COP21 summit. France is a co-member. Then, apart from that, anything else that is important? Yes. India and France have raised a major issue about cross-border terrorism from Pakistan, from China, from North Korea, and France will support India. Very good. What can we understand from this article? As a leading economy in the world. Now, France is actually a very big economy. If you look at the world over, France is the seventh largest economy in the world in terms of nominal GDP. Seventh largest economy. Yes, very good Shlok. Financial Action Task Force. Indeed, France's position is important. So, partnership with France, especially when it comes to defense cooperation, manufacturing, and anti terrorism, makes volumes of strength for India's foreign policy. So, that's all we understand from this article. Now, one question I want to shoot at you before I leave. Can you please tell me, is France a member of the G20 group or not? I'm leaving this question open. You can respond whenever you are prepared to respond. No hurry. This is a picture of the missile, hammer missile that is being created between, in India, BEL, and in France, Safran Technology Limited. See, this is the missile. It's a very sophisticated missile, bache. Okay? All right? Can we do the last question of the day? Shlok says it is, Vineet says it is. Make a consensus and let me know in the end. You should also educate me a little bit. Tell me, is it a member or not? Whatever you say, I will believe. Question. With reference to India-France defense cooperation, consider the following statements. 1. India and France reviewed their defense cooperation agreement for a period of 10 years during 6th India-France annual defense dialogue. Second, India has sought greater indigenization in the Rafale program, including expansion of maintenance, repair, overhaul facilities in India. 3. A joint venture agreement was signed between Bharat Electronic Limited and Safran Limited for manufacturing hammer missiles in India. Which of these statements are correct, Bachi? Yes, my dear. Who's answering? Shlok, Kritik, Vikash, Sumed, Reshma, Terukula. What about my dear Prasad? What about Akhtar? What about Iba? What about Taithong? What about Kaizen? Bache, I saw you. I want to see the answer as well. Ramu, Shakti, Rajneshwar. I'm seeing everyone's answer. And in the night, it all comes to me. Who answered today, who did not answer. So I'm not going to forget easily, okay? I have an elephant's memory. I remember. So better answer. Veda, Vaibhav, majority. No need for Lokpal. Everyone says it's correct. Satya confirms me. Eric also answered. I'm so happy to see that. Shakti has answered, of course. First is correct, totally correct. Second is correct, totally correct. Third is correct, totally correct. So what can I do? I can only clap when you answer like that. Very good, sweetie. Very good, Vansa. Perfect answer, Bachi. Proud of you. And really, really, I'm happy. Okay, now we are almost done. I just picked up an article from the science page because it was looking very important today. Okay, let's break it down in just 5 more minutes. This is Bachi GS paper 3. And no, this is not the one. I think that is the last one. So there are 2 more remaining. Acha, there is one last one remaining from the science page. This is also science page, but this is not exactly a scientific topic. It is, if you look at it from a health perspective, not defense or space. Yes, you can say it is GS paper 3 science. If you look at it from a health and disease and drug abuse perspective, then yes, it is science. So this is a science page article. Let's do it in 5 minutes. It's very important. That will come in the end, Satya. Let's have some suspense for that. Matsya mission. Very good. Okay. Penultimate. Yes. What is penultimate? The second last article for the day. Beautiful drama. Vocabulary master. Okay. This is an experiential science. Acha, bache, please let's focus. I really enjoy talking so much. Get lost in gossips. There is a time limit also. See what is happening. Quickly, let's do this article. Let's focus, please. What does this article say? Article begins by saying tobacco is a major concern. It is. Tobacco and nicotine especially. Nicotine that's found in tobacco. It's highly addictive. It is highly addictive. It harms the brain. It paralyzes the nervous system with long time use. Let alone it creates various kinds of cancers, lung disease, cardiovascular attack and strokes in human body. According to World Health Organization, according to a data by WHO, tobacco causes about 1.35 million deaths per year in India. Oh my God, that's a very, very shocking data. In India, we are experiencing 1.35 million deaths per annum because of drug and tobacco. Then, India is the second largest producer as well as consumer of tobacco in the world. Please remember both these data. Essays will not come like this, but GS paper 3 questions can come on tobacco abuse. Please use this data. Remember this data, bache. Tobacco causes 1.35 million deaths annually in India as per WHO, the most reliable data we can think of, and second largest producer and consumer of tobacco in the world. What is the role of tax when it comes to controlling tobacco? So many of my dear students have already said the GST amendment in 2025, where we have now replaced a multi-slab GST into minimal slab GST, tobacco and luxury cars were all shifted to the sin goods segment. Sin goods means now they command a tax of about 40% and above in terms of GST. Why? Because the government wants to discourage people from consuming tobacco. But has that really helped? I'm sorry, that's not helping in reality. Why? Because listen now, the government has increased cigarette taxes and excise duty by raising prices from 15 to 30%. But taxes are only 53% of the total retail price of the product. For example, if I am selling a cigarette at 100 rupees, only 53% of this 100 rupees is subject to taxation of 30%. Remaining is not subject to taxation. And this is a flaw in our taxation system. Because according to World Health Organization, taxation should cover 75% of the total retail price of the product. In India, we are only covering 53% on cigarette. That doesn't help us. That doesn't help. It means tobacco taxes in India are still lower as compared to the Western countries. And the global health experts are recommending that please quit smoking, make it a public awareness agenda, and therefore increase the total coverage of the tax. How can we understand this better? Let me give you an example. Now, there is an individual A. This individual A goes to buy a packet of cigarette. Okay. The packet of cigarette that this man is buying will include the actual cost of the cigarette packet plus taxes, GST, excise duty, cess, etc. Ideally, if the packet costed 200, he should ideally pay about 275 to 300 rupees, including all the taxes. But that is not happening in India. In India, out of this 100, out of this, say, 200 rupees of cigarette packet, only 53% of the value is covered under tax regime. That means the remaining part is not taxable at all. This consumer will easily walk home by paying max 210 or 220 rupees, which is affordable to most people. Taxes are not playing the role because they don't cover the complete retail value of the product. If there is a tax like GST, sin goods 40%, it should cover entire rupees 200 market value of the cigarette packet. It doesn't. It only covers 50%, 53%. Remaining is tax free. World Health Organization says we should cover at least 75% of the retail face value price. Only then people will be discouraged and only then will they get hit by taxation. Higher taxes will mean lower tobacco consumption, especially the young people and the low income users who do not have any access to insurance and preventive help either. What does research say? Research says 10% tax increase can significantly reduce cases of smoking. There is a bigger concern about BDs as well. Now, what about the BD segment, which is consumed by majority of people in the informal segment who cannot afford fancy patented or packaged branded cigarettes? What about them? Now, BDs are widely used by low income group, but GST on BD is only 18%. 18% only, which is lower than even cigarette. So experts are saying this increases inequality also on the basis of your income. The poor income groups are having an easier access to BD. While cigarettes are still expensive after GST reform, BDs are not. We are missing an opportunity of doing public health reform. And tobacco industry has also not done any such contribution. Now, interestingly, India is a key party. When I say this, I'm saying India is a key participant in a global platform named as FCTC. What platform, bache? FCTC. What is this platform? It is a platform called World Health Organization Framework Convention on Tobacco Control, FCTC. Okay, so please remember this platform, FCTC. What is the purpose of FCTC? India is a party to that. Under the FTCT platform, there is a warning that tobacco companies are always trying to create a monopoly over government policies. Because India is a signatory to this, India has committed on paper to reduce tobacco abuse. But the FCTC is very, very strong and one of the only conventions of tobacco control. It is world's first global public health treaty to control tobacco abuse. Very important. Don't forget that. I've written it here. It is world's first global public health treaty for tobacco control. When was it done? It was adopted by WTO in 2003. It was implemented in 2005. India is a member and a part of that treaty. Now, let alone the health impact. What about the environmental impact of tobacco abuse like cigarettes and beedies? Tobacco products also harm the climate. They also harm the environment ecology. Cigarette filters contain plastic. Plastic cannot be decomposed. Trillions of cigarette butts are polluting ecosystem every year. This issue was also discussed in the FCTC Conference of Parties, the COP. What can we conclude this article by saying? Article overall says that taxation plus regulation plus public awareness are three pillars to control tobacco abuse. Lessons from tobacco regulation must apply to alcohol industry and ultra processed food industry as well. Tobacco control will need stronger taxation, more public health awareness campaign, because if India wants to improve and utilize demographic dividend, then what happens? We can't let people die premature death because of tobacco abuse. That will be the worst thing to do for ourselves, right? Yes? Yes, that's correct, Madhav. Particulate matter 2.5, highly invasive, can be inhaled by the by the nose. I'm saying nails, just imagine. Nose, it can go and get deposited in the lungs, becomes a part of the bloodstream, further creating blood clots, coronary artery disorders. Very good. Okay. Now, having said that, the last article for the day, but you can't sit and talk about this article. You have to travel a little bit. So, where are we traveling? We are traveling to two places together. Of course, we are going back to Switzerland, and then we are also going back to Russia-Ukraine border. It's been a long time. None of us have spoken about Ludo, Zach, Jackson, whatever mnemonics you people have taught me, you know. It's long time. We talk about it quickly. What is going on, bache? What did I tell you yesterday? I told you in Switzerland there is a place called Geneva. Yes, in Geneva, what is happening? There are two kind of peace agreements that are going on at the same time, parallelly. One peace agreement is going on between US and Iran. Yesterday we saw the map and we realized Oman is mediating this peace pact. There is another peace pact that's going on in Geneva right now. This happens to be between Russia and Ukraine. Who is mediating? US. Look at the hypocrisy of global politics, bache. In the first agreement, Oman is mediating between US and Iran. In the second agreement, US itself is mediating between Russia and Ukraine. What is US? US is a mediator or US is the main conflicting parties in the world politics? We don't understand that at all. We don't understand that at all. Okay, so let's quickly travel and understand what's going on. Absolutely. A very good point, Shakti. They are losing a lot of revenue. In fact, if you remember, after the COVID pandemic, one of the first sectors that emerged out of lockdown was alcohol. So, no matter how much alcohol harms health, for the government, it's a key source of revenue, all season revenue. In COVID, when people refused to buy groceries and medicines, they were still buying alcohol. Alcohol is a major revenue generator. And that's the main reason why even today, if you look at FTA with European Union, MOD, mother of all the trade agreements, we have given a major subsidy and price cut to wines, English wines, foreign wines and alcohol and drinks. That's how it is always. That's a paradox. Diamond water paradox, alcohol water paradox. True, very sad state of affairs, but that's how it works. There are certain necessity items that are inflation proof. Alcohol happens to be one of them. Yes, valid point. Okay, quickly coming back here to Geneva, Switzerland. Focus on Switzerland. Just 2 minutes before, all of you have seen the map of France. Now we are focusing back on Switzerland. Yes, yes. What is going on? Let me quickly explain before we go to Ukraine. Russia-Ukraine war began in 2022. In reality, the war has been going on since 2014 when Russia had captured Crimea, and because of that, President Trump had thrown Russia out of G8, and G8 became G7 again, which we just spoke about, France being a key member. Yes, what is happening now? After 2014 Crimea capture, the war has only become ugly. Ukraine is a country that is located in a very crucial geopolitical area. It is absolutely on the right boundary of European Union countries, NATO countries. And therefore, it acts like a buffer state, a buffer country between Russia and European Union. US and European Union as parts of NATO have always been concerned that Russia will keep on moving leftwards and finally one day start annexing and intervening in European Union policies. And that's why the buffer Ukraine becomes very important. As Russia keeps trying to capture that one by one, Ukraine and its areas, European Union keeps defending it because that's a very important border buffer area for them. The major conflict erupted in 2022 when Russia started launching a full scale invasion of Ukraine. Why and what does Russia want? Now let's go to the map between Russia and Ukraine. This is the map, you all know about it. In reality, most of the political leaders believe that Russia has been waging this war since 2022 because Russia is obsessed over this area called Donbass, major area in Donetsk territory. Why? Because you all now know that Donbass means the coal basin, the basin of coal, an area so rich in coal and critical minerals that it forms the basis of Ukraine's industrialization, weapon manufacturing, trains, energy, all of that. And therefore, Russia wants that. The conflict is now happening since the last 4 years, causing civil war, destruction, infrastructure collapse, economic and energy disruption as a result of this war. As a result of this war, US and European Union have imposed heavy sanctions, tariffs on Russia, which directly resulted in falling prices of Russian crude oil. If you compare the price of Russian crude oil, then as compared to the Brent oil and the Texas sweet crude oil, Russian oil per barrel cost is about $7 less. And this all happened since 2025 as sanctions kept on increasing. That's the reason why India, China purchased so much oil from Russia. Today there was a piece of news in the Google News segment. What did it say? India has finally stopped purchasing Ural oil, Russian oil. But China is having a very jolly good time right now. India admitted, I will not buy Russian oil under US pressure, it is reducing. But what is China? Yesterday, about 500 and more legit barrels have reached China. Too much shadow fleets are floating from Russia to China. China is agreeing to buy all this oil now because India is not even a competitor now. India is not buying. China has monopoly again. All the oil will now come from Russia. Very cheap oil. China will again become a manufacturing giant. It's a very good situation for China. Can US say anything to China? Nothing, not a word. You might say why? Rare earth material, supply chain politics, API pharmaceutical. Who will stop China? Thousands of shadow fleets are going every day. Nobody can stop. That is the beauty of how China takes advantage of situation as India is reducing. Why all this happened? Because the oil prices fell off Ural mountain oil, Russian oil. Why? Because of sanctions from US, Europe. Since 2022, this has been going on. People say it is the most significant. It is the most significant conflict in the world since the Second World War. What is the current development? Now, finally, President Trump has come in the picture. He says, okay, I will create a peace deal between you both. Don't worry, bro, I am there. Russia and Ukraine are negotiating in Geneva. Who is mediating? US. Now, you will say, ma'am, what is this? Yesterday only, Oman was mediating between US and Iran. Today, US is mediating. Who is doing what? This is so complex. Geopolitics is complex, bache. Now, US is mediating between Russia and Ukraine. US says, I will stop the war between you two. The talks began. Even as both the sides are carrying out long-range strikes, what a paradox again. In Geneva, peace talks are going on. And in reality, Russia is still attacking Ukraine with long-range missiles. Similarly, peace talks are going on between US and Iran, but US is repeatedly sending aircraft carriers in Iranian boundaries. You see, it is a do or die situation. Either peace happens or war starts. This is the kind of situation it is. And as both the countries are now talking with US to create peace, there is a war going on. No ceasefire actually. What is the role of President Trump here? President Trump is acting like a mediator. Why? And that's a very tough question if you start asking them. Nobel Peace Prize. The whole big idea that he wants to counterbalance China as an economic rival. He may include President Putin once again in G8. Russia is not a direct enemy anymore. In fact, it's China. So all these things are there. Yes. Now US is acting like a mediator. Reports are saying that US President Mr. Trump will position himself as a peacemaker by facilitating negotiations just like he's doing in the case of Gaza Peace Board between Israel and Palestine. However, the world knows that earlier whenever US has tried to create peace talks, nothing has come out of it. US said I will solve Thailand Cambodia controversy. Anything happened? Nothing happened. US said I will create Israel Palestine peace through Gaza board. Anything happened? US has been saying I will create India Pakistan peace talks. Anything happened? Now US is saying I will also try to solve Russia Ukraine controversy. Do we believe anything will happen? Nothing is going to happen in reality. No major breakthrough. Key issues are still unresolved. And without key issues being solved, basically about Donbass, Russia is very conditional. It says, if you don't give me Donbass, I am not signing any peace treaty. Ukraine says, how can I give Donbass? How will I industrialize? Today you are asking for Donbass. Tomorrow you will say, give me Kherson also. Tomorrow they will claim towards Zaporizhia also. What will I do? Yes, that's the problem. Now, because of these issues, today Ukraine's security guarantees are also confusing. Europe is the only country, European Union, who is now trying to provide security guarantee for Ukraine. US says, I'm not doing. I am not financing NATO. Who will provide for Ukraine security? So there is no solution as such. An entire conflict is creating a tension in NATO-Russia relation, US-NATO relation, US-EU relation. Ukraine situation is horrible right now. The Greenland question has also been provoked because of President Trump's threat and the Denmark involvement. NATO is busy in creating security in the Arctic region. How will it focus on Ukraine? So this is geopolitical polarization. This is about a world that is fractured into so many wars. Very difficult to create peace. That's it. He also mediated Congo, Rwanda. Very good, Terukula. What happened? Temporary results. Yes? Okay, what's the question? Some students have questions. Shakti? Okay. All right. That is true, Shakti. What you are asking is a very big ethical question. This is culture lag, bache. If I was to give you an answer in 2 words, I will say culture lag. It's very easy to make policies on paper. It's very easy to create horses run on paper. But when it comes to implementing, when it comes to making them implement and see results out of them, there is a lot of reluctancy. Because the world today is about self-interest, unilateral ideology. Who believes in all these global norms? That's life. Even when you become, I'm hoping and I'm praying that each of you become an IAS, IPS, or an IFS officer, making me so proud. You know, what I feel is that you will face these problems every day. You will get prepared in administration. You will study so many things, how to deal with public, how to solve problems ethically, how to prioritize the code of conduct and duty. You will see your colleagues breaking them every day. You will see situations where your ethics are being questioned, your probity is under question. Reality doesn't match the theory. That is why the world is a tough place to live in. And that's why countries like India, as I told you, swing states, are always busy in every day recalibrating their foreign policies, because foreign policy is evolving. There is no transparency in global politics. You see, that's how it works. Good question, emotional question, but that's the reality. Yes. Okay, so which question were we arguing about? Which question had a split verdict? Answer is right here in front of you. Answer is right here in front of you. That was the split verdict all about. Yes? Can I take your leave? Okay. I'll see you tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. The question I have asked on Telegram is still pending. I'll answer that question, plus my exciting Zoom class announcement will also be there. And yes, absolutely, Madhav, Reshma, Vineet. Now everybody has understood what's the right answer. So the people who said B actually won the toss this time. Absolutely. That is why ethics is evolving as a very important discipline now. GS paper 4 is crucial. Crucial case studies are very, very, tightrope questions. So you must practice case studies too. It'll make you more prepared for such situations. Okay? All right. Then bless each one of you. And lots of love to each one of you. I'll catch you morning tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. And keep in touch with Telegram channel as well. And let's see which interesting current affairs we can bring to you. Do remember, we are running a great sale offer. And if you use my code SPLIVE, you can get more discount on existing discounts for 27 batch and 28 batch. Both batches are beginning on 26 February. So if it's you, any other friend, colleague who wants to join, do let them know about this. Thank you, Bache, for the lovely interactive class. Thank you for beginning the day on such a beautiful note. God bless